Episode 11 of the Bmoney Beastin podcast. As you can tell, the original Bmoney, who is behind me in the graphic, the other side here. It's a Sunday morning. He's got practice later today, and I don't know, man. He's not getting out of bed. But I am here with one of the greatest kids, man, I've ever met. Luke Carpenter, senior at East Hamilton High School in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Dude, me and your father go way back at Ringgold. During my career there, I played football my whole life, and I tore both my knees. I broke my left foot. I tore my rotator cuff. I broke my hand in 8th grade before I got to high school. Dude, I was like duct taped together. So me and Steve spent like a lot of time together. And to shout out Steve, he's a trainer at Ringgold High School. He's been there for 370 years, I think. At this point.
He's getting old.
Dude, you know, even though he is getting some age on him, he's the same guy.
Oh, yeah, he hasn't changed a bit.
Dude, he looks the same. He acts the same. Dude, I love that guy. He is the greatest. But this is about you. We love Steve, you know, but this is about you, man.
Yeah.
I want to start out like, you know, I got to kind of know you, in about the past year-ish?
Yeah, and, probably.
You know, I knew Steve had kids. And I knew they were all little redheaded kids, but I didn't know, like, I guess, you know, when time passes, you kind of forget the fact that kids grow up, right? Like I remember you being a kid at one point, because I think you had been in the Ringgold, like, field house at times.
Oh, yeah, I was always there.
Yeah, but, like, dude, when you think of a kid that's, like, you know, 4 years old, and then you think of a kid that's, you know, 18 or whatever. Are you 17 or 18 now?
I'm 17.
Okay, that's 17.
March, yeah.
So 4 to 18, like you're like, okay, that's the same kid, right? Like time moves on, you just don't really know, right?
Yeah.
But I want to ask you, man. I want to know all about you. How did you get into wrestling? Like what kind of started you on this path?
So it was actually because my older brother wrestled. So my older brother wrestled. He probably wrestled, I think it was from 7th grade to 12th grade, maybe. And, you know, he was somebody that I looked up to all the time. I mean, he's one of the greatest brothers in the world. And I always wanted to be like him. And I think in elementary school, or elementary or middle school. Yeah, elementary school. You know, I remember he had gone to state, I think his junior year. Or maybe in junior or senior year, and he didn't end up placing. And I remember on the car ride home, I was more sad about it than he was. You know, like it completely devastated me. So I made a promise to him that when I got into high school, I would work every day so that I could place, you know, for him and me. So I kind of got into wrestling because it was something that he did, and I wanted to be just like my older brother.
Well, where did you start at?
You mean in high school?
No, like what age did you start wrestling? And
I started wrestling in 6th grade. I was about maybe 11, I'd say. So yeah, I mean I haven't been wrestling for as long as a lot of other people, but you know.
Dude, you started there at East Hamilton Middle School? Is that what you started? Okay. And then now we see you everywhere, over at Grindhouse and Minion and everywhere. And
I mean, I'm trying to get into any room that I can at this point, you know.
And you dove right in. Like I've seen you a couple of times, you know, your Coach Mountain, shout out to him. He's a good dude. He brought like the East Hamilton crew over to Ringgold one day, and we had like that group that like, you know, whatever, like kind of collaborated practice.
Yeah.
And Quantal, shout out to our dude Quantal, who created the Bmoney Beastin universe. He was in there kind of coaching it. Dude, like it seems like you were like completely bought in. And like I was talking to your dad a few weeks ago, and he told me, he's like, man, he's in the weight room all the time. He's always working. And I see that, like as somebody that's just kind of on the outside looking in, you see that.
Yeah.
What are your goals for the season and like beyond? What would you like to do beyond, like the season and beyond?
So my goals for the season this year is, last year we moved up a division in Tennessee. Our school did. So it was completely different. Like just like the skill level. I mean, and like I was a completely different wrestler, but so was, the other people I was wrestling. So I didn't end up placing last year, but this year I want to make it a goal to not just place, but I want to be at least top 3 in state this year. And in order to do that, I've had to get stronger. I've had to get bigger. I mean, I've gained like 20 pounds since last year. And a lot of it's been, good weight, good strength. So I hope to place at least top 3 this year at state. And then beyond high school, I mean, really, I want to go into college, and I want to wrestle in college. It's something that I feel like I feel like if I don't wrestle in college, I'm gonna really regret it. And I feel like wrestling is something that I'm gonna have to have around me. I feel like it's a part of me. So like, I feel like I really do want to wrestle in college.
We had Brandon Bruner on. I don't know if you've ever met Brandon Bruner, but Brandon was I want to say he wrestled at Baylor. He was a Tullahoma kid. You know where Tullahoma is up in Tennessee?
Yeah.
And this was, let's see, he's 29. So I think he said he graduated maybe like 2011. I don't know. I don't remember when he said he graduated. But we knew Brandon Bruner because he started doing these group privates like years ago down in this little sweaty jiu-jitsu gym and down off like 3rd Street downtown. And we would go with Malachi. Malachi Puckett.
Yeah, I know Malachi. Yeah, he wrestled at Minions.
Yeah, he's at Minions. He was there, and then there was a couple other kids, and we used to go in there and it was sweaty. There was no air. Just go in there and beat up each other and for an hour or two, and Brandon would run it. Well, we had him on this last episode 10, and we were talking, and I've known him a long time. Great dude. And he basically had a way of saying this that was great. He said, man, he goes, I'm 29, and I still go and, roll around jiu-jitsu because it's a part of my life, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like you see, like let's use Sean, right? Sean's been wrestling like his whole life, right? And he was crazy successful, like he's on the board for the 4-timers in Georgia. He is an NCAA All-American. Like he wrestled, he was close to making a world team. And now what does he do 24 hours a day? He coaches wrestling.
Yeah.
And you got Pitts who, he won Southern Conference and, NCAA qualifier. And what does he do all the time? He coaches wrestling. So I think once it gets in your blood, it's just there, right? Like you don't really want it to go away. And in your situation, I think that kids, like there are kids that start when they're 5, 6 years old, right? And then and they get, and a lot of them that wrestle, 200, 300 matches a year, they burn out by the time they get out of high school. You're in a unique situation where, okay, I started in 6th grade. I'm starting to get better now as I'm getting older in my high school career. So imagine how much better you'd be in like 3 years in a college room, right? Yeah. So like, there are opportunities out there, man, to wrestle in college. Now that we're on that kind of subject of what you're wanting to kind of do after high school, how are your grades?
Oh, my grades. I mean, my grades have always been consistently, A's every year. I mean, I have a 4.0 right now.
Dude,
and
that's awesome.
I think out of like 300 some kids, I'm 26 in my class. So like top 10%. And, grades, I mean, wrestling's really important, but grades have always been, a priority of mine because, school is how I'm going to also become, is going to lead to what my job is going to be. That's going to be a part of my life too.
Absolutely it is. And do you know kind of what you want to do as a career when you are an adult?
Yeah, I want to become a physical therapist. So my dad he's an athletic trainer, and their jobs are kind of similar, but I feel like he works at a school, and I feel like I want to become a physical therapist because I've seen a lot of injuries. I've been injured before, and I want to help out other kids and hopefully athletes who get injured and help them pursue their goals.
See that, dude, that's awesome. Like we just went through the shoulder thing. I think you knew about that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we kind of, I texted with Steve like every day. And one day I pulled over, I was running some errands and he called, I said, when you get 5 seconds, call me. And we had like an hour and 45-minute conversation about like wrestling and life and what we should and shouldn't do and how we handle this. And, you know, like I went through that too as an athlete myself back in the day. And dude, when you have somebody there that is, you know, caring enough to know, like, to be like, hey, you know, we're going to get through this, you know, to help you mentally. I think it's more of a mental thing than even a physical thing when you're injured, right? It's like, okay, you're not going to lose nothing. You're not going to get behind. Relax. We got to get you healthy. You may be a little out of shape, but we can get you back in shape. Just relax. And I was in that boat at times. And I know Bryson was, and he was struggling. And we got that PRP treatment, or he did. And it seemed to have made a big difference. You know, he got back in, a couple of weeks ago. And so, like, people that want to do that and pursue that career, that is so admirable. I'm going to swap here, though, because I made a graphic for you. We're promoting the podcast. Dude, that Spiderman singlet is freaking awesome, bro.
It's pretty cool.
Okay, I got multiple questions on the Spiderman singlet. One, where did you get it? Two, or have you always been like a Marvel Spider-Man fan? And three, if you were wrestling like an open college tournament, would you rep that? Because that thing is awesome.
Okay, so I actually bought the singlet off the Roosh website, and it's kind of funny because when I bought it, so like, you know, I made a big jump in weight, you know, just I hit a huge growth spurt in the past year. So like when I bought it, I bought a size too small because I was mentally so used to wearing like that size.
Yeah.
So like when I got it, it didn't really fit me. But of course, I've lost some weight since then, so it fits me. But yeah, I got it from Rudis, and it's the coolest single ever. But I've always been, on your other question, I've always been a massive Spider-Man fan and Marvel fan. Like since when I was little. I mean, like when I was little, I'd watch like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies all the time. I mean, like I'd watch him almost every day sometimes, and you know that's what I wanted to look like. I wanted to, you know, be big and strong, you know, and so I mean that stuff's always been a big part of my life. But could you repeat your third question, please?
Oh yeah, if you could still fit into it now that we know that's a problem, would you rep that thing in like an open college tournament? Because you know, like if you don't make the varsity lineup in college, you can still wrestle unattached, right?
Yeah.
Like you see a lot of kids that are wrestling, like Tyler. Who was it? Was it Tyler Hunt? Maybe. I'm trying to think. There's a couple of old school Minion guys a couple years ago that had like the original Minion singlets they were wrestling at the Scuffle. And I remember me and Pitts were there, and I was like, dude, how are they still fitting in those things, right? Like how? So, like, if you could fit into it, would you rep some Spider-Man like at an open college tournament?
Honestly, I think I would. I think I would. Because honestly, I don't know what it is, but when I wear that singlet, I wrestle better. I'm not even gonna lie, I wrestle better. I don't know if it's a mentality thing or what, but I feel like I'm a different wrestler when I was wearing that singlet.
Did they sell those like stock, or did you have it designed that way?
No, they sold them like at like that, and there was only like a select amount though, so they ran out.
Dude, that's pretty cool because back in the day, like let's see, it's 2024, so maybe 8 years ago, Takedown in Atlanta, you know, the Takedown brand.
Oh yeah,
they had like an entire like superhero themed like singlets. And it was like the Hulk and Iron Man and Captain America. And they even had the Ninja Turtles and it had the shell on the back. Like they had some pretty cool stuff.
Sick.
Now, where you don't get sued for copyright infringement, they called it different stuff, right? Like it was like it wasn't the Mutant Turtles. It was like I forget what it was, but it was something Turtles and Turtle. And then it was like, instead of Batman, it was like the Dark Avenger or whatever. And dude, they were pretty cool. Bryson had the Hulk one because when he was growing up, like you were talking about Spider-Man, which he did have a damn stuffed Spider-Man he carried around when he was little. But for whatever reason, he was like big on the Incredible Hulk. I'll never forget that. Like, and he just loved the Hulk. He had all the little action figures and stuff. And when that came around, you know, he was like 7, right? And he was like, dude, I got to have that. And I got it for him for Christmas. He wore that thing, dude, till it was like ripping, like had the muscles and all.
Yeah.
So dude, so you got a 4.0. You started wrestling 6th grade. You're going to be a senior.
Yeah.
How do you feel? You know, Coach Mountain took over East Hamilton, what, 2 years ago? Has it been 2 years?
Yeah, it was my sophomore year.
And it seems like he's doing a great job there.
Yeah.
How do you feel like the program and even this team this year, how do you feel like it's grown from the time he came in to now?
Okay, so I'd also like to talk about before it, because my freshman year, my coach was the guy that had been coaching East Hamilton for like since it started, Coach Cooper. And honestly, he was a solid coach my freshman year too. But I think as time went on, like my sophomore year, I think Coach Mountain, they were both, you know, good coaches, but Coach Mountain, you know, it was a good area to where I could grow. You know, he had different teaching style, like coaching style, but also something about Coach Mountain that I like a lot, which, you know, is really helpful, is that Coach Mountain's always trying to get us to wrestle over the summer. Like, even in the off season, preseason, he always wants us to be wrestling. But Coach Mountain's also a lot better at kind of reaching out to like college coaches and getting us to maybe get some exposure there, which maybe I don't think Coach Cooper would have been, you know, he wouldn't have been pushing it as hard. So I feel like our program I feel like it's grown a lot. I feel like we have a lot more people wanting to wrestle, which kind of surprises me, because I feel like, you know, down in Tennessee, wrestling is not the biggest sport. But I have a lot of friends now that are like joining the wrestling team that I never thought would have. And I think part of that is Coach Mountain, you know, pushing it so much, you know?
You know, and one thing I've noticed, I kind of keep my finger on the pulse because of Bmoney Beastin, and I kind of try to keep up with the area and things. And over the years, I've probably met everybody at one point. You know, like we had Hatcher on. I don't know if you know Mike Hatcher. We had him on. He runs Young Guns in Nashville. And we met him at like a Baylor practice in the little dingy room they have downstairs where they do middle school matches, like years ago. So like I've kind of kept up with like what everybody's doing. And we always bring up Cleveland, right? Who does it better than anybody? Cleveland.
Yeah, Cleveland.
But over the past, year and a half or so, I've noticed like you see Kane Nation, East Hamilton wrestling, you see that a lot, right? And the way I feel like that in today, like you have to correlate with your audience. And what's your audience? You know, you're looking at, typically young kids, but when your youth kids, but when you're getting like sixth grade to 10th, 11th grade, whatever, in those high school years, what are kids always doing? They're on Instagram, they're on Facebook, they're on Snapchat or whatever, TikTok.
Yeah.
Whenever you can be in that presence, and I can't stress it enough, there's so many teams that don't utilize social media, and it hurts their growth of their program, right?
Yeah.
Like I've said it to Derek Murdoch. We love Derek Murdoch, right? And he's like, well, I got the Remind Me app. I was like, yeah, but outside of the kids that are on that, nobody knows what's happening over here, right? Like you just don't know. You look at like Minion, you look at Grindhouse, you look at Boskin up in Cleveland, you look at like even Boy Buchanan, like Mike Sutherland, that programs that are continuously trying to build, they really utilize social media. And Coach Mountain's done a great job with that, with the rebrand, the Kane Nation thing, which I think is super cool. So that could be a real reason why the numbers are raising, which, I mean, that proves my point that I just said, right? You're pulling kids in, but how are you relating to them? Social media. Like, it's so easy. Yeah. Like, if you see something 4 or 5 times, you're like, dude, that looks pretty cool. Let me try that. And then all of a sudden, maybe you pull a kid that ends up being a state champ. Maybe you pull a kid that just doesn't place, but he wins enough to push you over the hump, and maybe you win a team title. You never know, but you got to try, right?
Yeah.
And dude, he's done a really good job with the rebranding. And I knew who he was because we had been up at Boston's and training when he was at Cleveland. But I never really had a conversation with him until we went to that Ringo like collab practice. And dude, he's a great guy, right? And how do you feel like this team this year, that your senior season, how do you feel like this team can compete in your division in the state of Tennessee?
Okay, so I think last year it was honestly it was pretty eye opening. I mean, I feel like a lot of us had gotten better as wrestlers, but moving up a division was a totally different feel. I mean, just the competition was totally different. But I think this year, I think we're gonna have a lot better run. I feel like we're a little more used to wrestling better kids. I feel like we can even beat some of the solid teams around here. I feel like we're gonna have a good duel with Bradley when we wrestle them, and I think we have a chance to even beat them. I feel like as a team, I feel like we're a lot more accustomed, to the level of competition now, and I feel like we're gonna do better. And I feel like also him having us practice and him letting us, go to all these preseason big tournaments like the early entry as Super 32, I feel like it's made us better as wrestlers. So I feel like our core group is a lot more solid,
I mean, and that's kind of how it works, right? Like when you get in a situation where, over the years, and I can only relate it to like our personal experience, but I've seen it on all levels, right? I think you need to have a healthy balance, right? Like right now is kind of the calm before the storm of the season,
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you mentioned earlier about summer wrestling, right? The first season that Bryson wrestled, he wrestled the season. He was what, 5'6", whatever he was. And he went through regions. He qualified for state. And then, I was kind of uneducated on how to keep up, which I didn't want to cut a 6-year-old, 5-year-old kid.
No.
And he's like, I just want to play baseball now. I was like, okay, cool. So he didn't touch a mat again until the following season, right? Like at all.
Yeah.
But he was like 5 or 6 years old. Now, the following year is whenever he kind of dabbled with freestyle a little bit. And, like, I'll tell you a funny story. You'll laugh at this. Ollie Webb?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Ollie Webb, when we started the next season, we started going down to pits at Grindhouse in Dalton. This is a great story. And he's like, well, we just did state. What are we doing now? I said, it's freestyle. He goes, what's that mean? I said, I don't know. You'll learn. And we go down there, and Ollie he's a senior this year too at Southeast Whitfield. Shout out to our dude, Ollie Webb. Ollie was in like 6th grade, and Bryson and Harrison were like in 2nd grade, right? And we're down there at Grindhouse, and Matt Pitts is sitting on the wall and like squatted down on the wall, and he's like calling out what to do. And Ollie takes down Bryson and puts him in a leg lace and rolls him from one end of the Dalton room to the other. And he's just going with it. Doop, 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 doop. And Pitts is over there just laughing. And he gets up. He's like, what? He goes, dude, you got tech falled like 18 times. He's like, no, I didn't. He's like, yeah, dude, this is freestyle. He goes, what does that mean? But like, I feel like whenever you started to see improvements is when you wrestled in the off season, right? Like when you get, even if, I think competing's good, but you got to balance that too, because when you're cutting weight all the time, that tends to kind of wear on you. So like you can get competition in practice rooms too, right? Like you go into Minion, there's kids everywhere, right? Like you can go with. So like if you're getting that in the off season, you're gonna jump levels over the summer. Like I see your shirt, Jordan Train. Dude, the Jeff Jordan camp. You went this summer. Did you go this summer?
No, I didn't go this summer. There was a couple other camps that I went to, but I didn't go.
You have been there though at one point.
No, I have been there. Yeah.
Yeah. See, the Jeff Jordan camp, like we missed it last summer, but every other summer we've been up there.
Yeah. That
level of intensity that is unmatched anywhere, like almost anywhere. Like it's unmatched. And if you can get through that and I'm going to give a shout out Jeff Jordan State Champ Camp. If you want to jump levels, go to the Jeff Jordan State Champ Camp for 6-7 days, whatever it is. Because, dude, one session is more than most kids get in a week.
It's intense.
But you see that, and you see how they structure that. And, it's through the summer, and then they do some fall stuff. And then for the Ohio kids up there, they do like a Jordan Elite Club a couple days a week. And you wonder why St. Paris Graham's still winning state championships without Jeff Jordan. He's still kind of there. He's just not running the show anymore. So, like, summer wrestling, that's awesome that Coach Mountain's, like, pushing, his team to be like, okay, hey, we need to hit this and this. We need to practice this many days. And that eventually, you're going to be like a part of the foundation that grows that program in like 4 or 5 years where it's kind of starting to compete. Yeah. And you're in the division now in Tennessee with what, Cleveland and Blackman and those guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, like in Blackman, if you look at Blackman, have you ever kind of kept up with them? They got a ton of kids in their club. They, you look at that when you start seeing the teams in the state of Tennessee that are really, really successful. Higher Calling, of course, which is now the Cleveland Wrestling Club. The Blackman Youth, those guys, Saudi Daisy, right? Saudi Daisy's probably got 60, 70 kids or whatever. When you start seeing the teams that are like either winning state or in the top 3, 5, it's that club. And with him building that Cane Nation club, it's really going to eventually kind of keep building. We know what you want to be. We know where you started. Do you have any preference when you graduate this year? And you got a 4.0. I'm going to keep saying that 4.0, which is amazing. Do you have any preference of like what part of the country you'd like to go to college? Because I know your dad went to Marshall.
Yeah. My dad, when he went to college, he's from Chicago, and he went to Marshall in West Virginia. So like he moved a long way away from home. And I'm willing to, to go to a college that's further away from home because honestly, I think it could be good for me and it could, lead to life experiences. But I mean, part of me is a little nervous about that, but I feel like I kind of want to stay closer to home, like stay closer in like the Kentucky, Georgia, Tennessee regions. I mean, kind of like the, the Southeast. But I mean, I'd be willing to, go to a college that's, maybe a little further away from home, just because I know that it could be, good for me, just as a person.
The one thing that was a shock to me as a kid coming out of high school is when you're in high school, your parents do your laundry, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time your meals, like, I make Bryson cook sometimes, but for the most part, like I make meals or buy meals or whatever, like your structure of your life is kind of not necessarily controlled, but set up for you by your parents, right?
Yeah.
And when I got out kind of on my own and I was like, dude, what? I don't have any clean clothes. I'm hungry. What do I eat? I need gas. Like, what's auto insurance? Like, it's kind of a culture shock. And I think there's definitely something to be said for throwing yourself into a situation to where you kind of have to, not necessarily, I mean, at college age, you should be pretty mature and grown. But at the same point to, I guess, realize time management. I think that's more of okay, I got to work out at 6. I got class at 8. I'm free from 12 to 3. I can get my laundry done, my homework done. Yeah. I got practice at 5, whatever the case may be. And I think that could be a really cool thing. In the state of Tennessee, there's several, there's Chattanooga, of course, but there's several NAIA programs in the state of Tennessee. That are always up. There's a young girl that won one of our contests, Shy Ring, I believe is how you say her name. And we sent her a gear bag here about a year ago. And she was repping it, man, down at Deep South. I was so happy. I was like, that's so cool. But she's committed to wrestle at, I think, Campbellsville.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then, Cumberland's in, there's 2 Cumberlands. One's in Kentucky. and then there's one in Lebanon, Tennessee. So there's a lot of opportunities for in-state because you're in the state of Tennessee.
Yeah.
But also, like there's also several in Georgia. There's a couple in Kentucky. There's a couple in North Carolina. So like in this South, and then there's some in Florida. So like that whole Southeast region, there's a lot of programs, Division 1, 2, 3, NAIA, and with a 4.0 GPA, and the fact that you're going to only improve, right? Because you started a little later, but you're starting to peak at the right time. Right?
No, yeah. I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I definitely feel like every year, I feel like my growth hasn't been linear, but it's been like exponential, like I feel like each year, I feel like I just look at it and I feel like my level of wrestling has increased so much each year. It's continuing to grow and grow, and that's because of wrestling the off season and wrestling all the time. I feel like I feel like right now I truly don't know how good I could be if I continue to keep wrestling.
And dude, like it's like anything. Like you look at, and we'll talk about football for a minute. Are you a football fan at all?
Yeah.
Last night that Bama Georgia game was ridiculous, dude.
Crazy. 17-year-old, scores a game-winning touchdown.
Yeah, Ryan Williams, that kid, wow. But in football, right? If you look at the NFL, there's one team in the NFL that does really well at taking like maybe somebody that needs some refinement and building them into a future Hall of Famer. If you look at the Green Bay Packers, okay, they traded a second-round pick for Brett Favre, who was the third-string quarterback or whatever at the Falcons. He ended up being a Hall of Famer. During his time, they took Aaron Rodgers, who dropped to the bottom of the first round. He's a first-ballot Hall of Famer. Then when he was there, they took Jordan Love, who nobody thought was going to be anything. And last year he had an MVP season.
Yeah.
But all the thing that's in common with those guys is they all sat, right? They learned, they worked. And I think that there's something to be said for that like what you are at 17 compared to what you could be at 21, the sky's the limit, man, right?
Yeah.
Like, and on top of that, like boys, they grow and mature until they're about 21. Dude, you could grow another 3 or 4 inches and put on another 40 pounds. So like, who knows? But I'll say this in closing here. I'll say this. If I was running a college program, you're the type kid I want in my program, okay? You show up on time, you work hard, you make good grades. I can trust you to be doing the right things, right? I know you're going to go to class. I know you're going to be at practice. I know you're going to be at workouts. I won't have to worry about anything. And I know you're going to give me everything you got every day. I've seen it, right? And I'm shooting a promo right here to any college coach that sees this, okay? If I ran a college program, I would recruit you today. I was like, this kid's young, and he's starting to get better and better now, which is a good thing. And there's another kid kind of like that, Amaury Alvarez. I don't know if you remember him, but he wrestled at Baylor. He's been at North Carolina. He redshirted. I think he's in his sophomore year. But he was a stud like in Georgia as a young kid. But he didn't win state until his senior year, right, in Tennessee. And he was always kind of there, but he just hadn't got over the hump. North Carolina recruited him because he was big and strong, and he had some athletic ability, and he was 17 when he graduated. And, like, from where he was then to where he is now, he may even make the lineup. You never know, right? Like, you can actually get recruited and let a college program continuously build you. That happens all the time. But if it was me, go get this kid. Great kid. Last thing we'll close up with this. Tell me, I'm going to ask you 5 questions, just random questions to get to know Luke a little better. What's your favorite food?
My favorite food, it may sound a little weird, peanut butter and honey sandwich.
Dude, that's actually kind of cool.
Dude, I probably eat a peanut butter honey sandwich almost every day.
Dude, that's cool. You ever ate like the Peter Pan honey roast?
No, I haven't.
Go to Walmart, Peter Pan honey roasted peanut butter, greatest thing in the world. What's your favorite subject in school?
Favorite subject in school? It's probably honestly, it's probably right now. It may be physics. I didn't sign up for physics this year, but they put me in it. And honestly, I was gonna drop physics because like I didn't sign up for it, I didn't want to take it. But I'm honestly having a ton of fun in that class. And I mean, I like science. I mean, I want to become a, physical therapist. So like I enjoy science. So that's probably my favorite subject right now.
That's awesome, dude. What's your favorite hobby outside of wrestling?
Outside of wrestling, well, shoot, I gotta think for a sec. It feels like all I do is wrestle sometimes. Um, Favorite hobby. Honestly, it's kind of nerdy, but I like to build Legos. I like to build Legos. I like to just set them up and just like something I can look at.
That's cool. When I was a kid, I used to build model cars. So
Oh yeah, yeah. I
that's
mean,
cool, man.
if I can build it and set it up on a shelf, I love it.
That's awesome, dude. We talked about you love Spider-Man, but
Yeah.
what's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie, honestly, is not even the best. It's not. I don't even think it's the best movie of all time, but it's Spider-Man 3, like the Tobey Maguire one, because it. I have a funny story. When I was little, I would watch that. There was a period of time for like maybe like 3 months where I'd watch that movie when I was like maybe 4 or 5. I'd watch that movie every single day, multiple times a day. I'm talking one day I watched it like 6 times, and that's I don't know, it's like over 2 hour movie. So
Yeah.
like that movie is just such a big part of my childhood that it's just my favorite movie.
Was that Spider-Man and Venom?
Yeah, it's not even the best one of the three, but I just love it.
I think where they took what's his name? Topher Grace, is that his name? The
Yeah,
guy, yeah, Topher Grace. Where you've seen him as Eric Foreman, right? Like, and after he was in the '70s show for as long as he was, every time you see that guy, it's like that's Eric Foreman.
yeah,
And now he's like the bad guy Venom. Like, so I can see that as a cool dynamic in a way, right?
yeah.
Um, so, what's your favorite? What kind of music do you listen to?
Honestly, I love like a lot of types of music. I've always loved rock, like rock and roll, no matter if it's like heavy metal or some other type. But recently, I've been listening. I don't know why, but I've been listening to a lot of like alternative rock.
Like, got some bands you can name off? A couple of
Um, one sec. Let me think. I'd say like Radiohead
yeah,
or um, shoot. One sec. The Pixies. I like the Pixies a lot. Um, and I also like. I like. I don't know if they're alternative rock, but I like the Red Hot Chili Peppers a lot.
dude, everybody loves the Red Hot
I
Chili Peppers.
mean, yeah, but like they're just so good.
To go back and answer those 5 questions for you, for me, so
Yeah.
my favorite subject in school was entrepreneurship when I was in high school. My favorite food is steak of any kind, and I'm been on this
Steak's good.
carnivore diet for like 8-10 weeks now, and dude, I eat a lot of steak. Um, my favorite movie of all time is Scarface. I don't know if you ever seen it, but
I've heard of it. I have never watched it though.
I don't know if it's the best thing to tell a kid to watch a movie about a Colombian drug lord, but it's pretty great. And I guess I took an underlying message from it. It's a guy that was, if you like history, Fidel Castro did actually send like everybody in his jails to Miami, like in the like early '80s.
Yeah.
And they kind of picked up off that in the movie. And Tony Montana was one of them that was in one of the jails and ended up in Miami. Next thing you know, he's a powerful drug lord and all this stuff, right? But that's my favorite all-time movie. My favorite band music, like I like alternative rock and stuff. And Bryson started getting me into I like a lot of rap now, And
No, yeah.
I grew up during like when Eminem was popping too. So like everybody, Slim Shady's like the goat. But like in terms of like music, I feel like, and especially with sports, right? It relates a lot, right?
Oh
Music
yeah.
Like if you're trying to calm yourself down, you may listen to one thing. If you're trying to pump yourself up, you may listen to something else. Like for instance, like Virginia Tech has the greatest college football entrance of all time, where they start flashing the stadium lights and they're playing Enter the Sandman. Dude, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. But wrapping up here, episode 11 of the Bmoney Beastin podcast. I'm here with Luke Carpenter, senior at East Hamilton High School. If you want to talk to him, try to recruit him, get to know him, reach out to Coach Eric Mountain at East Hamilton High School, Chattanooga, Tennessee. Got anything you want to add before we close it up, dog?
No, not really. I mean, I feel like you covered almost everything.
He got a 4.0. He's only getting better at this point in time. Go get this kid. Solid foundation for your program. Episode 11 in the books.